This is Eddie Maisonet here on the Versus podcast here at KMBR. Here on top of Comcast Sportsnet Studios. Got my man Myron Medcalf at ESPN. Taking a couple extra minutes from ESPN Media Day. First off, how you doing this evening, my brother? How are things?
Man, I'm back in the Bay like Mac Dre, man.
Hey,
I'm
turn
good,
up.
man. I'm good.
Turn up one time. So, Bonta Hill, Eddie Maisonet, Myron Medcalf. We just finished talking to a lot of the coaches, players. College basketball is back here in the next couple of weeks. We're going to kick off another phenomenal season. And I think the top story, I mean, there's no reason to beat around the bush, is the Cal Bears might be actually back, man. They're a top 15 ranked team across all national media outlets. Your first impressions in talking with Quanzo, talking to Tyrone Wallace, and getting a feel for this team?
I think the biggest thing is, like, you don't see a team that feels like affected by the hype.
Right.
Tyrone, I think, was really good today. Just talking about, how much they are focused on becoming a better team.
Mm-hmm.
Getting along. You're not hearing guys talk about, okay, how are we going to share the ball? What are the numbers? They're just talking about being a team.
Right.
And Quanzo has a lot to do with that, and I think that's a good sign, because everyone knows at the end of the day, it's, even if you say we're all going to share the ball equally, I mean, that hierarchy will be established.
Right.
Somebody's going to have to be king, and other people are just going to have to follow behind. So, and I think that dynamic is most difficult in a team with returning vets and young guys who are really, really good.
Right.
That's a hard thing to bring together, but it sounds like they're getting along, and it sounds like, they are focused on their potential, and their potential is as high as any teams in this league, and definitely as high as, one of the few teams, I think, in the country that, if they put it all together, they could be really, really dangerous come March, is when you have to be, you're at your best, because they got, between Jalen and Ivan and Tyrone Watt, they have guys that could be pros
Right.
here in 6 months, all on the same roster. And you get that a lot at Arizona, Kentucky. We haven't seen that at Cal, maybe ever.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think you look at, like, Cal hasn't had this high caliber of new coming players since Leon Poe. Leon Poe was the man.
Yeah.
What do you think? Is it just that Quanzo has the charisma? Is it something else that he's able to sell about this program? What do you think are the takeaways that you got in talking with him that's drawing that highest caliber of talent to come to Berkeley and play ball?
I think he's a straight shooter.
Okay.
And I think that really affects not just players but their families as well.
Right.
And I think he's really been direct with these guys. Like, look, we know what you're capable of, and we know that obviously if you reach your potential, you could have a pro career, but you're not coming to Cal just to focus on that.
Right.
And I think he has been straightforward with a lot of these guys. Big on relationships. The guy's been through a lot.
Right.
Cancer survivor, and
Wow.
where he grew up. So he can relate to anybody. And I think a lot of kids appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
And he also played in the pros. He's been the really good college player who was trying to make it in the next level. So I think he's a guy where if you have something to talk to Quanzo about, he can relate to you.
Right.
And I think the idea that he's building something. I think people want to be a part of something on the ground floor. And his message is, look, get in on this now when we are building it, and you can become a part of something that could be really special. I don't know how many teams, Jabari Bird, McDonald's All-American, might be their fifth option at the end of the day.
Right.
I don't know how many teams can really say that.
Right.
And he is attracting players who want to be a part of what could be something special.
There's a lot of noise coming out of Berkeley.
Yeah.
Deservedly so. They got Rob, they got Brown. But let's talk about the team 35 miles south of here down in Stanford. Nobody's talking about Johnny Dawkins and his crew, who won the NIT championship last year. They won 24 games. A year before, they went to the Sweet 16. But they lost 3 seniors, Chashawn Randall and Anthony Brown, and their leading scorer coming back, Roscoe Allen, only averaged 8 points a game last year. Who is going to step up for Stanford, and are they going to be relevant in the Pac-12 this year?
I was just talking to Johnny about that. You can't ignore what they lost. It's not like they lost Randall and Brown and you just go and replace those guys. I don't think you can replace a Randall, and not even just on the court, but his leadership as well. Brown, that's a really tough trio to miss. But Roscoe has to step up.
Yeah.
But Reed Travis, I think, is the guy where, you look at him, is he a different player now that he's healthy?
Yeah.
Johnny thinks so. That was a guy who never got healthy.
Yeah.
We never saw him at 100%. We probably never saw him at 85%. So now coming into this season, completely healthy, and he's a captain for them. The first sophomore captain that Johnny has ever had in his program. So that says a lot about his maturity, and it says a lot about the role that his teammates expect him to play. I think there's a lot of parity from like 5 on down in the Pac-12 in terms of we're going to see a lot of competitive games. We don't have a dominant team in that group, and anything could happen. So Stanford, I think they could rise, but there's a lot of work to be done.
Do you think Cal or Stanford, it's clear as far as where you think Stanford ranks, but do you think Cal has a real shot to dethrone the Kings of the Pac-12 right now in Arizona for Pac-12 championship consideration?
I think Cal can win the national championship.
Wow.
I mean, but it's not crazy, though, when you consider if we were talking about this lineup in Lexington, Kentucky,
Right.
people would go, yeah, you are right.
Yeah.
Right.
They could win the national championship. They got 2 guys that can be top 10 picks, a bunch of veterans coming back, all average double figures. We go, oh, yeah, that could be a
Makes a
championship
lot of
squad.
sense. Yeah.
But because it's Cal, people are like, wait, are you sure?
Right.
No, I mean, they could beat Arizona. I think in terms of their starting 5, would be more talented than any starting 5 that Arizona can put on the court.
Right.
Arizona is Arizona, but I think if there were ever a year to doubt Arizona, it'd be a year where they lost 4 really, really good players. I mean, Sean Miller said in media day, we don't know who our leader is yet.
Right.
They've never had that problem at Arizona under Sean Miller. It was T.J. McConnell. It was Nick Johnson. They always had a guy where you go, oh, man, he'll handle the locker room. Who is that guy for Arizona right now? You don't know, you know, and I think that could be a challenge because you don't want to figure out your leader over the course of the season. That's dangerous.
Right.
And that's where Arizona is right now. Talent-wise, if it all comes together, Cal win the Pac-12 championship and more. And I don't even think it's that complicated. Jaylen Brown's a beast. Ivan Rabb is a beast. Tyrone Wallace, Jabari Bird, like, who else can match that in the Pac-12? Nobody. But again, it's because it's Cal. People are like, hold on. But if you just look on paper and I don't show you the name of the team and I show you how good these guys are and where they were ranked, you go, that team could go all the way. Why not?
What's your thoughts on UCLA this year? They point blank. They got a loaded schedule. You know, they got Kentucky coming in. And it's good because we saw this in the 90s with UCLA where they packed their non-league schedule with top-tier colleges and top-tier games. What's your thoughts on that? Where's their program going right now?
I mean, they're going to have some depth, I think. You know.
Got that deep breath.
Here's the thing. I think Tony Parker is the most important player on that roster.
Okay.
And I think that should be scary for every UCLA fan. Because I think Tony, potential-wise, I mean, what did he do in the tournament? He went like 28-12 in their opening game, and then he went like 16-11 in the second game. Right. He was a monster in the NCAA tournament. Like, we finally saw the real Tony Parker in the NCAA tournament. But if you go look at his stats before that, you'll see a guy who would go from 11 points, 10 rebounds one night to 3 for 7, 4 points, 3 rebounds the next night. Like, Tony in high school was a guy that you kind of had to get him, you had to push him into gear. And I think he's maintained that. Like, he's one of those dudes where it's like, yeah, I'm talented, but unless you really, really push that in him, he doesn't really have that self-starting ability. And I think that's knocked him his whole career. But if we see the same Tony we saw at the end of last year, UCLA will be fine because Tony, really talented player, a lot of talented pieces around him. You lose Norm, you lose, some of the other talented guys they had, but there's enough to get into the tournament, I think. Win the Pac-12, no, but I think be a competitive team, sure.
Now, look, we're a couple of weeks away from the start of the season.
Yeah.
Who are like the couple of players that you're really keeping your eye on to make an early impact? I know me personally, I'm looking at Ben Simmons. I want to see what he's going to do down in LSU. I think Jamal Murray is going to be interesting at UK. Who are the couple of players that you kind of have your eye on? They're like, I want to see if they're going to blow up this year.
Karis LeVert. I mean, he's a senior, so it's like hard to look at him like that, but I remember 2 years ago when LeVert was supposed to be a lottery pick.
Right.
And I think if he leaves, he's probably a first-round pick maybe. Comes back, gets hurt, people forget about him.
Right.
But I think Karis LeVert can come in and be one of the best players in the country. I think he's a really special player, especially now that he's healthy. I think Isaiah Taylor in Texas with Shaka's system could be a superstar. But just because that's like the perfect style for Isaiah Taylor. I want you to lead our press and harass guys for 40 minutes. And then offensively, man, you just go attack, and see what comes out of that. So I think it's a perfect scheme for a guy like Isaiah. Man, there's just so many guys, I think, around the country. Nigel Hayes. I mean, I'm not trying to name all Big Ten guys. I think if you look at Oregon State, Wayne Tinkle's kid, Trey Tinkle, and Stephen Thompson Jr., like the recruits they have coming in with the Beavers, could be guys where you go, wait a minute, why are the Beavers winning games? Well, that recruiting class could be really special. The number one guy, though, is Domantas Sabonis Gonzaga.
Oh, man.
Wow.
Lottery pick, and he's going to be an All-American.
There it is. Anything else, Bonta?
I got nothing. Oh, one more. Sleeper team. We know about the Kentuckys. We know about Arizona, Cal. What team, when it comes to March, we're going to be like, wow, I didn't see this coming. This team is really good.
Oklahoma.
And the audio just went out.
I'm a homer. What you want me to do? I'm hometown.
I think if Rico gathers and Torian Prince, if those guys play to their capability at Baylor will be tough for anybody in the country. Because everyone likes to knock Baylor when they lose close games, but when they played well, they played really well, and they lost like 7 games by 4 or less last year.
Yeah.
Baylor could be a team where at the end of the season where you go, man, they could be good.
ESPN's Myron Medcalf, Bonta Hill, Eddie Maisonet, hanging out at the Rooftop Pac-12 studios. It's been a fun time. We'll see you in the Versus podcast when we get back in the studio. Let's go.